How's it going, sports fans? Hope everyone had an amazing weekend. Happy Monday, and welcome to FNN Sports Take with me, Kasey Hudson. Of course, if you guys tuned in last night, you know that it was the ESPYs, something that we all look forward to every single year, and no-brainer. It was a lot different than the years prior because it was a virtual ESPY Awards. The ESPYs did open up on an emotional platform. There was a lot of emotion that took place last night, just addressing so much of everything that's taking place in this world right now between the racial injustice, COVID-19, and much, much more. Your hosts, Russell Wilson, Megan Rapinoe, and Sue Bird, made a statement as they wore shirts that said, "I can't breathe." And they all took a moment to have their monologues to just kind of break down and touch base with everything that everybody is facing and trying to stand hand in hand in with right now. Some of the most significant awards that were passed out, although they are all very significant, the ESPYs always touches on, an emotional level because you point out the teams that really put their blood, sweat, and tears into their seasons, the players that put their blood, sweat, and tears into their season, the people who give so much back to their community, their team. All in all, this is always something that has so much great honor to it. But some of the most standout ones that, I always wanted to touch base on was the Muhammad Ali Sports Humanitarian Award was won by Nelson Cruz from the Minnesota Twins. We also had Sports Humanitarian Team of the Year, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Kevin Love accepts the Courage Award for his vulnerability in discussing mental health. He took to all social media platforms the minute that COVID-19 had shut down the nation and really put his heart out there as to the mental health issues that he had faced and what he still faces on a day-to-day basis. He also explained some of the vulnerability that he was challenged to expose to the world or expose to his loved ones. So he was a big moving part in the fact that there were hotlines opened up or, therapists just a call away during COVID-19 because not everybody can handle being isolated and everyone was isolated in a different way. So that was major. We knew that he was going to get something big because obviously putting your heart on your sleeve for the whole world to see is not the easiest thing to do. Sports Philanthropist of the Year award goes to Ralph C. Wilson Jr. Foundation. So those were some of the most, touching on some aspects. You knew it was coming to these guys or these teams because of just the work that you see on a day-to-day basis. Of course, there wouldn't be an ESPYs award or anything that has to do with sports if there wasn't a tribute to the late Kobe Bryant. Snoop Dogg rapped a couple of songs, and Adam Levine paid tribute by singing the Maroon 5 song Memories. So that was beautiful and obviously heartbreaking to see all in one. There was a slideshow in the background of Snoop's performance with, all the beautiful murals that people made across the world and, obviously career highlights because he was a phenomenal player. So that was just an amazing virtual thing to just watch and touch base on last night. And I hope everybody enjoyed the show. I certainly enjoyed it, and I hope it just touched lives and touched hearts. But of course, we move forward onto the NFL. And the hard question now is the likeliness of the 2020 season. Is there really going to be a season? Are we still just kind of kicking around the idea of one? Because the hard fact is now 10 NFL teams at minimum have reported at least one or more players that have tested positive for COVID-19. Last week, we discussed the fact that Ezekiel Elliott was amongst these players. His information got out before he could even confirm it on Twitter. And then, he was kind of frustrated at the fact of how the news broke as if he was hiding it. But there's an order of operation here in which how certain news has to be released. Come on, guys. The other hard news is that Friday, Saturday, we kind of found out Bucs assistant coach tested positive for COVID-19 and then 2 Bucs players. Obviously, names are not being released because it's nobody's business. At the end of the day, whoever tests positive will be isolated and watched over because it's not just about isolating. I'm sure at this point, people just feel kind of willy-nilly about it. And it's like, oh, you might have COVID, quarantine for 14 days and resume your life. But this is something that can end up taking somebody's life. So that sensitivity still needs to be there when we find out that people test positive for COVID-19. It's still a scary situation. Now, with those players and some of the staff members testing positive over at the Tampa Bay Bucs, they obviously did shut down the facility and they undergone a extensive sanitizing in the affected areas. They also put restrictions on particular areas as well. With that being said, NFLPA released a statement saying they don't feel like players should be working out together any longer. If you can manage what you're doing, if you have a system, you need to continue to work out alone until they figure out the best way to continue moving forward. Some of the things that might go into play is the tier program. they're saying that facilities should have 3 tiers worth of a program. Tier 1 will consist of players, coaches, trainers, physicians, necessary personnel who must have direct access to players being at the facilities. Tier 2 will consist of general managers, football operation employees, other assistant coaches, video personnel, security, other essential personnel who may need to be in close proximity of the players. And Tier 3 will consist of certain operational personnel, in-house media and broadcast personnel, field manager, transportation providers, individuals who perform essential facility, stadium, or event services but do not require close contact with Tier 1 individuals. Now, for football, we know it's kind of difficult because they have to keep breaking down these groups smaller and smaller. It's going to be kind of hard to have any kind of functional groups of only 10 when you think about the pieces that need to go into play to have football practices or anything else, workouts, so on and so forth. Even when it comes to position groups, you have a lot more guys out there because the point of training camp is to start weeding out the guys that don't really fit that roster that you have in mind for that upcoming season. So the NFL teams are going to be put in some pretty tough positions coming up here. And to make matters a little bit scarier, as the Dr. Fauci comes out and says, look, the NFL is probably going to have to adopt that bubble concept that the NHL and the NBA are doing in order to resume their seasons. Players are advised to isolate while in the meantime to do their best to wear their mask whenever they do have to go out in public, but to not go out in public if they do not have to. And mind you guys, training camp is supposed to be starting between July 21st and July 28th. So that's a lot of things that the NFL has to kind of narrow down and figure out. I mean, in my personal opinion, it'd be their best bet to kind of get all players and coaches and staff tested right now so that you can start weeding out who needs to be put away for 14 days before it cuts too close to training camp. We have to stop forgetting this important word called asymptomatic. And I will show you guys why it is so important as we get later down in the segment. But you have people that are asymptomatic who are not feeling any symptoms, who are fine, carrying on their day-to-day lives, and then they get amongst a group of people in a facility. They're going to be carriers, and they're going to spread this virus along. So you might as well start the testing process now, see who pops up positive, weed out those asymptomatic players so that you can kind of get ahead of the game. I'm a little surprised that this isn't kind of a thing right now. The only thing that's happened is coaches returned to facilities in the last 2 weeks. Moving past some COVID-19 news, even though it'll be fully incorporated in tonight's segment, Dak Prescott and the Cowboys finally reached an agreement. It's great to say that somebody has finally reached an agreement. They settled on a $31.4 million deal, making Dak Prescott the highest base salary pay in NFL history by $8 million. Jerry Jones, if you're looking for an assistant or just somebody to carry your briefcase, I got you, I promise. Now, I don't know if it's the shiny new number that's going out for these pays that some of these athletes are getting, but Jets safety Jamal Adams is pushing for a trade. We saw that there was a number of teams that he was considering, but after a Snapchat video that went viral, because of course everything goes viral nowadays, there was a little question there as to whether or not he's heading to Texas. And then he said, hey, that's what I'm trying to do. Well, this guy has 2 years left on his rookie deal, and we've heard in the previous season that he's clearly not happy with the Jets. He's kind of voiced that on numerous occasions and on different levels and platforms. So it would be their best bet to just get rid of the guy. He's super unhappy. He's got, I think, he's got 2 years left, as I just said. We don't know if that'll affect his performance, if he can really shut that down and give this team everything that he's got. He's one of the top 10 safeties in the league. As for going to Texas, though, to me, that seems pretty not possible. You just dropped $31.4 million to keep your QB in Texas, on top of the fact that there are salary cap discussions that will be taking place in the next 21 to 30 days. With that happening, you're a top 10 safety in the league. Unless you're going to take a pay cut, then there's no realistic way I can personally see the Cowboys bringing Adams down to Texas and being able to afford him. So maybe we got to start kicking around the idea of some of the other teams he named. Baltimore Ravens was among some of those teams that might be a better fit, but he definitely has the talent and the ability to do well. He just needs to go to the right team, and I don't think the Cowboys are that. If you guys think the Cowboys can afford Adams, let me know. And, how would they do it? Who would they maneuver around? Who's going to take the cut, or what's that salary cap going to look like for the 2021-2022 season? I love trying to say that word. Stick with us, guys, as we go to a quick commercial break, and then when we come back, we chat some NBA.
All this time we fought side by side. We trained together. We lost together. And now, you're the only one standing in my way. It's been a while, old friend.
All right, guys, welcome back. So for some NBA chat right now, players have until June 24th to confirm whether they will or will not be participating in the remainder of the 2020 season. We heard a lot of bigger names come forward and say, look, I'm not quite comfortable with this, or I'm not going to put my body through that. They feel like there's no reason to do so. Or there's the third option that they don't want games and the resuming of seasons to be a distraction from everything taking place in the nation right now. On top of that, obviously, the Orlando bubble that these players already had an initial issue with is looking quite grim right now because COVID-19 cases have ramped up. As of Friday, there was a little over 4,000 brand new cases in Florida. So yeah, that's going to strike fear in a lot of people when you're thinking you're coming here to isolate, protect yourself to resume your season. You have to be away from your family, your friends, your loved ones. And now you're going to relocate to a state that might be looking a little bit like New York City. I might be having some second thoughts as well, but everybody's on a different wavelength as to why they're hesitating. Long story short, these guys only have 2 days left to make a decision whether or not they will be moving forward with the 2020 season. Now, obviously, with every decision comes some backlash. The backlash being if you're opting out of this season because you don't want to be a distraction, it's kind of advised against. The point of having a platform to speak from, to motivate people from, to inspire from is because you have an opportunity to speak louder than the many hundreds of thousands of voices that only have access to so many people. So I don't particularly think that should be the excuse and reasoning as to not return. But with COVID ramping up, you have a perfect excuse to not return to your season, or the mere fact that if you're coming off of an injury, if you're still kind of milking or nursing a situation that you're keeping low key, then yeah, you're returning tournament style, which means you are going to wear down your body quicker and in a faster way than normal. And that might not be the best bet for you or for your career long term. Now, because of the COVID-19 cases ramping up, do you guys think that the restart plan is in jeopardy? Obviously, there's a lot of conversation now as to whether it's even worth it in general. Like I said, they made this whole plan to come here, isolate, protect these players, put them in the best safety protocols possible, and now they might be in one of the most high-risk states at the moment. Among some of the bigger names coming out saying, I'm just going to bow out of this one, Trevor Arizona announces today that he will not be participating in the restart of the NBA season. But on a higher note for basketball that is actually going to resume, basketball resumed in China. So if you want to catch some games, hopefully they'll throw those on the airwaves and we'll get to see some basketball. This is way past across the pond, but all the way over there. You guys get it. On another lighter note, the Orlando Magic and Florida Blue celebrate their 10th anniversary of Baskets for Books program with a virtual children's book called Stuff and Sunny Take Flight. I always love these stories and these opportunities because we don't see enough of this, enough of the behind the scenes work and community efforts and give back that takes place. And look, a virtual book is amazing right now. You know, these kids are already on iPads. I think 4-year-olds know how to work an iPad better than I do. But Stuff is the Orlando Magic mascot. Sunny is the Florida Blue mascot. And they go on a little adventure that these kids will learn once they download those books and read them. The program, since being incepted 10 years ago, has taken off with 50,000 books been donated to Early Learning Coalition. More than 4,500 books were donated just last season, alone with the help of Hudson, Mifflin, and Harcourt Publishing Company. I had to read that one. You guys know I like to change everybody's name, but I wanted to get that one right because you have to give credit where credit is due. So that's big, and that's always heartwarming to see. Now, as we move forward to the NHL, not too much more going on there. They are narrowing down what the hub cities will be. And Canada says even though they're a bit concerned, they're not going to shut down the opportunity to still host as a hub city so that they can continue the season moving forward. Now, for the local news aspect of it, because you guys know I'm in Tampa Bay, 3 Lightning players and some staff have tested positive for COVID-19. Of course, per protocol, these people and individuals have been asked to go back into self-isolation, and then we will get more updates as to their health and their recovery and them overcoming this COVID-19 disaster. and then hopefully they'll be back to up and normal and feeling good. Obviously, with anybody testing positive or the amount of people testing positive in those facilities, Tampa Bay Lightning did shut down the facility until further notice to obviously extensively sanitize and make sure that they get a better handle on who may have what and how much further that may spread. Now, I guess the lighter news in all of this is only 11 players of 200 players tested have tested positive for COVID-19. We're just crossing our fingers that that number doesn't increase. As you guys have noticed, a lot more. I mean, you have to assume that amongst these guys and gals trying to get their sports season back, that there's going to be 10% that are going to test positive for COVID because of that big word that everybody wants to avoid called asymptomatic. Now for the MLB, because why not? It's a sports update, and we're going to give you guys all the sports updates. The MLB is doing what the MLB has been doing, which means coming to zero conclusions, period. As for now, all training camp facilities between Florida and Arizona have been shut down because many players have tested positive for COVID-19. And then when it comes to the battle of no compromise ever, MLB offered a 60-game plan from their counter-offer, and MLBPA rejected it. Why not? 33-5 vote. Was anybody surprised? At this point, you can bet. Like, if there's any betting portals open for you guys to go into, is the MLB and the MLBPA going to come to, an agreement? Is somebody going to meet them in the middle? Who's going to compromise this time? I bet that you can make a lot of money to the fact that they're never going to agree on anything, and their best bet right now is to just cancel the 2020 season because July is next week, which means opening day date was supposed to be around July 4th. So they've already lost an entire month in failed negotiations that are going absolutely nowhere. I mean, there's no counteroffer coming from the MLBPA. They're not meeting them in the middle at all. And in the middle of us hearing how many COVID-19 cases are popping back up and how this thing is running rampant all over again, let's quote unquote call it what it is, a second wave. I don't understand why they wouldn't just say, okay, 60 games because it looks like we might not make it through much of a season anyhow. And they already said, Dr. Fauci and other CDC regulations are quoting that they should not go into October playing the season. They're really, really highly advising against it. So why they can't come to an agreement, I don't get it, but obviously that's still sticking the same. Stick with us as we go to another quick commercial break and we come back and break down some soccer.
At Duke Energy, we deliver electricity and so much more, like free home energy assessments, rebates for energy-saving improvements, payment options to help you better manage your budget, and even bill credits for helping the community use less energy. So no matter what you're doing, we can help you make better energy choices every day. It's just another way we bring power to your life. How much can you save?
All right, guys, welcome back. So aside from all the madness in the world and, well, it being Monday, I am a happy girl on a Monday because of this news alone. I've said it enough. I am also a Real Madrid fan. I'm a soccer fan, period. I played soccer growing up, and I love it. Real Madrid's Sergio Ramos becomes the defender with the most goals in La Liga history, surpassing the 67-goal thing that was celebrated. He got 68 goals, and now he is on the top of the food chain in terms of being the best defender in the world, and I'm sure he is just getting started. Ramos has many seasons left in him. I do not doubt that, and that was exciting news for me as a fan. Now, Christian Pulisic shines in his Chelsea match, coming off the bench, hopping onto the pitch, and scoring a goal. He silenced a lot of fans that gave him a very aggressive welcome, and that was a controversy we discussed a couple months ago at this point, that Chelsea wasn't so warm welcoming to Christian joining the team. Well, I'm thinking fans are going to be a little bit more comfortable with his onboarding now that he showed that he has the skill set that's always been talked about. I don't know if it was the money or what the big reservation was in terms of just opening your arms to letting him in, but he earned that one well and good, and I'm sure he is just getting started as well. For further soccer news in NW, National Women's Soccer League, the Orlando Pride had to withdraw from the National Women's Soccer League tourney due to many positive COVID-19 tests. This was kind of heartbreaking to read. We know that a few people have kind of spoken out to the fact that this was an extremely difficult decision, but then this takes me back to my jabbering earlier this segment. many people that got tested positive for COVID-19 within the Orlando Pride organization were asymptomatic. So they thought it was the best bet to just withdraw, because in order to control that, in order to maintain that, you have to kind of find everybody that's asymptomatic, find everybody that they've been in contact with, see how far the spread has gone. And this tournament has already kicked up and started taking place. So that was just kind of a lot of moving pieces to try to control so late in the game. So they just had to withdraw, which is hard. You know, as we've talked about numerous times, these are these people's livelihoods, these are their careers. So they're itching to get back out there and live their lives and function in their careers and do what they know. And as soon as the hype of getting back out there and enjoying this again, then this happened. So the organization, of course, said that this was an extremely difficult decision to make, but all in all, it's the healthiest decision to make. So my condolences to everyone a part of the Orlando Pride organization. I know that's not an easy pill to swallow, but they're going to stay healthy. They're going to protect their friends, their families, and their loved ones in this sacrifice to bow out. Now, on a heavy-hearted note, NASCAR has now had to open an FBI investigation. When you hear FBI investigation, the magnitude you particularly think of, and what I'm about to say, I just can't wrap my mind around, if I'm being quite honest. So there's now an open FBI investigation because someone decided that they were going to try to make a statement and put a noose in NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace's garage on Sunday while the race was in the midst of being postponed due to weather. If you didn't hear me properly, then let's throw that out there one more time. A noose. Something to imply that you were going to hang someone. Something that also implies disgusting actions that took place eons ago to wipe out a race that people didn't feel comfortable around, or didn't want around, or didn't feel needed to breathe or live amongst them. It's pretty disturbing amongst a disgusting action to do, just to make a point over a flag that you feel so adamant to have carried on you or waving. And instead of this word compromise, I'm struggling to realize how many Americans fail to actually compromise, to actually realize what that means, what that entails. And yes, it's a sacrifice on both ends, but compromise is what makes change actually happen. Compromise is what creates progression. I'm struggling to the fact that so many people lack compromise. Marty Smith, in an angered response, you know, he is an ESPN correspondent, one of the top ones, especially for NASCAR. He's followed it or given us, you know, all the information in regards to it for years. And he was not only deeply disturbed, but just purely angered to the fact that this was really a thing over a flag being asked not to be on certain grounds. It's like saying, don't wear the color black to a particular game or event. I can't imagine that you are that hell-bent on having a flag at a particular event that you go there to enjoy with your friends, your family, and cheer on your favorite race car driver to the point where you had to make such a statement as disgusting as leaving a noose in the only black driver's garage. A lot of people have spoken forward to the fact that just when you think we're making progressive step forward, there's something like that to drag it back. I highly advise that we don't allow this person, this sadly sick individual, to get that kind of credit to make everyone take steps back. He doesn't deserve that. This can still be something very progressive, and I think everyone at NASCAR agrees, because Bubba has received so much support in the last 24 hours in terms of just making sure that he knows that he is loved and he is welcomed in the NASCAR world. One of the most beautiful gestures that, if you watch it, I guarantee you'll have goosebumps. After the race was postponed on Sunday, the guys obviously raced earlier today, and Jimmy Johnson took to the drivers group chat where they talked to all the drivers, obviously, and said, you know, I'm going to stand with Bubba during the national anthem. And Kevin Harvick came back and said, I think we could do a little bit better than that. I say that we take his car once the race is all done and push it forward just to show our support and our alliance with Bubba Wallace, that he is not alone, not only in NASCAR, but in this nation, because to be the only colored driver And to make such a statement that obviously is getting so much backlash, it's a scary platform to stand on and feel alone. And I think a lot of these drivers have made it a point to make sure that he does not feel alone in this. So if you get a minute, pull that up. At the end of the race, drivers got behind him, 39 drivers to be exact, pushing Bubba Wallace's car down the track and just showing their support. And once Bubba got out of the car and was obviously overwhelmed with emotions, because who can tell anybody what's going through his head right now, he posted a picture to say, you know, that they all stand together. NASCAR's president even came forward to say that this will not stand in NASCAR. Richard Petty stepped forward as well, knowing as one of the kings of race car driving, as a Hall of Fame driver for one, but he was even completely disgusted to the actions and the fact that they will find this person and they will get down to the bottom of this, because realistically, guys, there's limited access to everything going on right now. So in order for somebody to get into that garage, they're a NASCAR member. They're a part of some team or, you know, some crew. So it shouldn't take long. This shouldn't be a far stretch to figure this out. And I do obviously pray and hope that they get an opportunity to get down to the bottom of this, and that, you know, people learn from this, that this is no longer going to be accepted, and it should never get to such extreme, disgusting measures. To prove what point? Because you want to carry a flag on certain grounds, run wild with that flag in the streets, but you're asked to not take it to NASCAR anymore. And I can't imagine it's that detrimental to you to where you have to threaten somebody's life. Aside from that, and that heavy notion that we have to discuss, obviously, Belmont States took place this past Saturday, and 'tis the law wins. I get the biggest kick out of these horses and jockeys' names, because sometimes I wonder if they just put outrageous names in a hat and pick it out, and they're like, yep, this is what we're rocking with for our entire jockey and horseback riding career. I haven't heard a normal name ever. Like, why can't somebody just be called like Blue? And Blue won the race. But the 3-year-old colt from upstate New York charged to the lead and now can set his sights on September 5th, the Kentucky Derby. Obviously, all of these races had to be maneuvered around because of all the COVID-19 madness. Says the law gave New York a hometown champion. Its first major sporting event since the coronavirus pandemic seized the area. Not to mention is that it's the first New York-bred horse to win Belmont since 1882, which was major. Obviously, we always love when new history takes place, and you guys know me, I'm a big underdog gal. So thank you for tuning in with us today, guys. Per usual, you know, we're going to be talking about some heavy stuff because there's a lot of things taking place in the world. I always just advise you guys to think with the purest form of your heart, and the best way that we're going to move forward in anything, and not let any negative or BS take place in this world, or, you know, have a large grip on this world, is if we start with ourselves, our outlook on life, and our outlook from within. So I continue to advise you guys, stay strong, stay sane, stay kind, stay compassionate, and do all you can to just make it better, not only for yourself, but every individual in this world. I guarantee you it is not that hard. It is just a positive outlook on life. It's not phony. It's going to make for better days ahead. Everybody, stay safe. I'll catch you guys on Wednesday at 8 p.m.